Our top 12 running backs for 2025 right now on FFT Express. Well, if you look at the YouTube page, the title here says Heath Cummings, top 12 running backs for 2025. But you know what? I'm going to give mine too. So take that. All right, Heath. Not happy about that?
I mean, it's fine. I'll give you mine in kind of tiers, and then you can give yours as well. I've got Bijan, Jahmyr Gibbs, and Saquon Barkley as the top tier of 2025 running backs in that order.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely have the same top three. I don't know if I put Jahmyr Gibbs in that tier, though. You know, what are your thoughts on that? It's very obvious, right? It's something like 18, 19 points per game with David Montgomery, 18.2 PPR fantasy points per game with David Montgomery, 32.6 PPR fantasy points per game without Montgomery. That does not include the playoff game where he was incredible and Montgomery played.
Yeah, I just think like Montgomery may still be there. They're obviously going to have a new offensive coordinator. Montgomery's another year older. Gibbs was so much better in the playoffs. I think we see for the entire season, if you just want to look at it that way, Gibbs was at 21.3 fantasy points per game, a half point worse than Barkley, but a full point better than Bijan. Sure, ding him just a little bit for that. Probably going to ding Barkley just a little bit for being 28. And those three all belong in the same tier.
I still forgot to do the research, forgot to update it. But Saquon Barkley, if history is any indication, is going to lose about 1.5 yards per carry, because this happens to every runner pretty much that after their 2,000-yard season. Maybe 1.5 yards is a little bit much. Derrick Henry lost 1.1 yards per carry, but he's just not going to be as good in all likelihood as he is this year. He's absolutely incredible this year. Okay, we have the same top three of Bijan, Barkley, Gibbs. That's your first tier. All right, what's after that?
I'll put two in the next tier. It's Kyren Williams. It's Devon Achane. A couple of younger backs who produced as top 6 to 10 backs, depending on how you want to do it, either a full season or per game basis. Both of them were averaging at least 17 fantasy points per game. Second year in a row where Kyren Williams was just a lot better than everyone expected. Achane and Kyren are the next two.
I have Achane fifth. I have Christian McCaffrey fourth. Is that too high for you?
Well, I just gave you my top 5 and he wasn't in it. So that would,
you're fine with it, even if it's not how you have it ranked.
I think you can make the justification based on the upside that he's shown us, but he's now going to be 29 years old, and he has had a variety of injuries. At least one of those, the tendonitis, I don't think we expect to fully go away until he stops playing football. So no, I think it's too high. There's just too much risk.
Okay. I'm also a little nervous about Achane being in my top 5, just because what you said about Jonnu Smith on the tight end show is like, the Dolphins just had their worst offense. Maybe they should throw the ball downfield a little bit more. Well, that would certainly affect Achane. I just think he's great, and obviously took over as the lead running back, and he had only 6 rushing touchdowns, though, in 17 games.
The difference between Achane and Jonnu Smith is that 2 years ago, Devon Achane was RB5 at over 17 fantasy points per game. So it's different ways, but back-to-back years, he's been over 17 fantasy points per game.
Okay, what's next?
Then you've kind of got the old guys that I don't really know what to make of, but Henry, Mixon, Jacobs, and McCaffrey, 6 through 9 at running back. McCaffrey moves to the top of this list if we can just get to the start of training camp and he can be healthy. But those 4, Henry, Jacobs, Mixon, and McCaffrey. And I think I was one of only 2 people that had Mixon as a top 12 running back.
Yeah, again, after the playoff game against the Chiefs, I brought it up. I was like, what am I even thinking there? But it was actually pretty tough to fill out the top 12. They were really good. It wasn't tough like tight end where you're just praying, but this was a really good list. I had actually the young guys at 6 and 7. I had Bucky Irving and Chase Brown, and I had Kyren Williams 8. I didn't have any of these guys in this range because I had McCaffrey 4, and then Jacobs and Henry I have 10 and 11, and Mixon I didn't have in my top 12. I went Bucky Irving, Chase Brown, Kyron Williams, James Cook.
Yeah, I probably need to get James Cook in there. I had him there last year. I hated how much he shared, especially in the second half of the season. And even in the playoffs, we saw like he's been really good and still has to share with both Ray Davis and Ty Johnson. But he did not make my top 12. My final 3 were Jonathan Taylor, Bucky Irving, and Chase Brown.
Yeah, it was tough. You don't have Breece Hall in there.
Right.
I don't have Jonathan Taylor. I don't have Joe Mixon. They're right there. So, and I don't have Kamara. Do you?
I had Kamara, and then I put Chase Brown in for Kamara.
Okay. Yeah. We'll take a break and we'll talk about this a little bit more. I'll be right back on Fantasy Football Today. Yeah. So I'm very high on Chase Brown. You know, I sort of feel like they're going to make a move, but this is based on them not doing anything. But I have Bucky 6 and Brown 7. Did you have Bucky Irving in your top 12?
Yes. I think they were 10 and 11 for me, or 11 and 12. The real, like we've talked about it a lot, this type of profile, especially after just 1 year, after a rookie year, is a little bit risky in terms of, but the risk generally comes if there's a coach change of some kind. And we think these guys are going to have the same coaches going into next year. So if we get through the draft and nothing major has happened, then I could see Bucky Irving and Chase Brown moving up to 6 and 7.
All right. So give me your last 4, 9 through 12. I don't know, some of them will be repeats, but
McCaffrey, Taylor, Bucky, and Chase Brown.
McCaffrey, Taylor, Bucky Irving, Chase Brown. And my 9 through 12, I had Kyron 8. So I go James Cook, Josh Jacobs, Derrick Henry, Breece Hall. Breece Hall for you. Did you think about putting him in the top 12?
Jamie, when we did this exercise, asked us the guy who just missed the cut, and Breece Hall would have been my RB13. I do still believe in his talent, but I have grave concerns about this entire situation. You got a new coaching staff coming in. They spent significant resources on Braylon Allen, which some coaches could like depending on what style they prefer of their running back. You have no idea who the quarterback's going to be. The offensive line might be awful. The Jets could be a terrible offensive team once again.
I have Henry 11th. You have Henry where?
6, but he was the guy who I think is the most difficult player to rank at the running back position. I don't really want to call him a bust again.
I know, exactly. I'm going to have to reach for him in some drafts if I have him 11, because there's no way I can go another year without having any Derrick Henry. So few catches and so old for the position, but the guy's really incredible. And I think it's worth mentioning that neither of us now you made the change, neither of us have Alvin Kamara, who is RB5 per game. And he's been top 9 per game in PPR in all but one season of his career. Every single year in PPR, except for one, he's been top 9 per game. And he does that without a lot of touchdowns. And I don't think he'll have Taysom Hill to deal with next year. It is interesting that we left him out of the top 12.
But that's another. It is. He at least did show some signs of age this year in terms of. I mean, he's had some injuries and been nicked up a little bit. And then the other thing is, the Saints are another team that I think could just be disastrously bad.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's it for Fantasy Football Today Express. Thank you so much. We'll talk to you tomorrow, everybody. Have a great one.